Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Hopefully you guys are staying dry. It's wet and depressing out there. But yeah, that's January for you. Let's see, in this video, we are going to take a good old 2020 recap into grading. It just seems to me that I continuously receive a lot of inquiries through the email, through comments. I've had a couple of really the gloves are off kind of comments that were pretty disparaging. I mean, it doesn't bother me any. that kind of comes along the territory when you're running a YouTube channel, is that you are not going to please 100% of your audience, and I'm willing to accept that. Okay, I'm good with 75%. But anyways, this video has been long overdue. Yes, I have done something like this similar before. I have a few kind of graded items that I've accumulated in the last, 6 months to a year. While this comprises a small percentage of my actual collection, it's mostly stuff that I've picked up recently, as the bulk of my other collection is in safekeeping. All right, so something that I can't get to right now, but we're going to work with what I currently have here. Grading. Okay, it very much is something that is high risk, high reward. Okay, hopefully more than 75% of my audience realizes this. Okay, you can go ahead and hit the dislike button, leave the room, whatever the case may be. If it doesn't fit the profile of what you're trying to achieve, then I'm sorry for that. This is going to be stone cold, stark in the face, kind of true reality. And it all comes back to when I began grading coins somewhere in 2010. Okay, I was really into it after the recession, only because a lot of people were getting into it. At the time, you can try and gun for some of those rare graded modern day Lincoln cents. Okay, I've talked about it in numerous videos. I've talked about sale recaps, and hey, the so-and-so coin sold for $10,000, and maybe you could find one too. All right, there's a lot of asterisks and question marks when it comes to videos like that. Okay, first and foremost, I want to formally apologize. I am sorry if you felt like you got the wrong impression with those videos. Okay, however, I'm not going to apologize for the fact that the realization is there that you could make a boatload of money off of one coin. Okay, that could happen. There are a number of different groups in the community that, I don't know, you could kind of split them up into subgroups. Okay, you have, group A that is all about vintage old collecting, okay, 19th century, 18th century items, even older than that. There are people that are into ancients. They are not going to see eye to eye with what you and I consider to be modern coin grading. Some would say it's a complete waste of time. You shouldn't even do it. All right, on the other side of the coin, haha, no pun intended, you have another group that is completely into I'm all about post 1950 coin grading, and there's a lot of potential there, and it could be fun. All right, but I guarantee you guys, it doesn't matter which direction, which group you are a part of, there is an element of kind of if I were to compare it, I would compare it to the golfing game. All right, for those of you that play golf, you're either really good at it or you're horrible at it. And even if you are good at it, there are days where you're just inherently bad. Okay, you have a 10 over par, score, and your handicap sucks through the roof. It's a very frustrating yet enlightening experience. You can't get enough of it. You want more of it, even though you're horrible at it. And I was in that group around 2010 to 2012. So I was the type of guy, and you've seen some videos. I'm actually quite private when it comes to revealing coin grades and submissions and that sort of thing, because it's something that I really, truly dig down and put a lot of time into to ensure that I covered all the bases. All right, because there are ways that you could really royally screw up, from actually doing the paperwork, the submission paperwork, to packaging up the coins, and just kind of maybe you accidentally nicked a coin that was once a gem looking coin. these are all things that, you know, play a huge role on whether or not you want to get into coin grading. Okay, and then this is also going to cover some paper grading. There's been a huge change in the grading scene for paper currency here within the last few months, and I'm gonna get into that here momentarily. But what I wanted to do and what I did was I actually pulled up, uploaded the PDF, and printed the actual formal PCGS form. I apologize about the pink logos and stuff. My printer is running out of yellow ink. So PCGS, if you're watching this, yeah, that's not your logo identity, but much love to you guys and what you do for the community. You know, whether we want to believe it or not, these grading companies have provided an extra amount of element that has kept numismatics on the forefront of any sort of hobby out there. Okay, and then we're seeing it kind of like we're seeing it expand and grow into things like sports cards, you know, with PSA and BGS and all that, and also comic books with CGC. CBCS, I guess, is another grading company that people prefer. And there's a lot of tie-in. Okay, you have like one company, PCGS, that owns a few different companies across different grading aspects. But that's a story for another time. We are going to get into the grading part of it for coins. Okay, that's why you're here. Now, the first thing you want to keep in mind before I even get started is as far as like explaining what all this is, because it's like filling out DMV paperwork, for crying out loud. It's cumbersome, it's long, you want to make sure all the information is correct, things of that nature. With PCGS, there is a membership fee. Okay, you got to be able to add in all of the associated fees to ensure that this is something that you want to do. All right. First and foremost, there is an annual fee. It's like $79, $100. You know, there's a couple of different tiers based off of, you know, I guess how frequently you're going to be using the service. People of a higher tier that paid all the money for that particular membership get additional perks. All right. And that's all highlighted on their website, PCGS.com. Go ahead and read about it. But let's go ahead and take a look at the form. And of course, we got some, you know, sampler slabs here, a lot more NGC than I'd say PCGS. You know, this would be a great coin to kind of like model after. 1939D, Mercury dime, 66 full split bands. It's even CAC certified, CAC with that green bean. So we could probably use that, you know, to help tie in a little bit of the information on here. And then at the end of this video, you're going to decide if this is a worthwhile endeavor for you. So thinking back to my good old, you know, 2010 to 2012 self, I have filled out these forms before. And of course, if you are signed up as a member already, you'll have your member number. Okay, you're going to need that when you fill this out. Okay. The box right here that's colored, that's PCGS, internal usage only, but just all the general information, your shipping address of who it's going to be returned to, member name and number. So you just go in order of the black box and the number, okay? And then you just go ahead and fill it in. Now, there's going to be service groups that are standard in Gold Shield. Gold Shield, you know, is an additional cost. It's an additional kind of like white glove service. You know, maybe they have an extra set of eyes that look at the grading to help audit to ensure that's correct. Grading options, okay? You could opt to not have it holdered, I guess, if it's a details grade like scratched or environmental damage or bent. You know, you could opt to not holder anything. Or they could holder it for you. Of course, you still have to pay the fee, but if you don't holder it, they're not going to charge you the extra amount of money. Service type, you have grading, regrade, crossover, and reholder. Okay, crossover is simply if you submitted an NGC or an ICG slab coin to PCGS to see if that coin will cross over at the same grade or at a worse grade or a better grade, they could do that for you. There is a cost associated with that, but it's a little bit less than, say, if you submit a coin that's like raw, never been graded before. Reholder means you've chipped the holder and you want to reholder it. That is a small fee in there. They got reconsideration. Let's say you felt like that this coin right here should really have graded 66 plus full bands, or maybe even 67. You could resubmit this coin for reconsideration, okay, depending on how the coin looks eye appeal wise. You might want to consider that, because that'll also change the actual value of the coin. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And then, they got full grade, which is a default. So, they'll put the whole grade on there with the numericals and everything like that. That'll be in there. You have a plus grade, suffix, and any. All right, so usually you could do any, and it would just kind of sub-choose that. If you didn't do the plus grade, then they'll just, I guess, kind of round down to, maybe this was probably 66 plus, but if no one actually check mark the box for plus grade, they'll either round down or round up, depending on how strong the characteristics are. So here's where it gets kind of confusing. Okay, you have a number of various different types of services, all dependent on how much your coin is worth. Now, this is where it gets really dicey, because when we're talking about modern coins, very rarely would you want to do a walkthrough unless you had like a 69S or that 75 no S proof dime that you wanted to submit and get back right away. A walkthrough service is quicker. All right, they'll go ahead and send this to the head of the line. They're going to give it the extra care. And of course, these are all gold shield submissions. All right, so you're going to have the gold shield on your coin when you receive it back. And of course, rarities right there. You could pay the $300. Like if you had that 1913 Buffalo nickel that you wanted to have graded, I don't know why it's not graded in the first place. There's only 5 examples. Then you could pay the $300. There's no max coin value on that. Okay, now generally, when you get to grading moderns, you're going to be looking at this middle row. So you got regular, economy, modern gold, modern, and special label holder, blah, blah, blah stuff here. And typically if and what I did was when I submitted a ton of some of those modern coins, which I thought, would grade like a 67 or maybe a 67 plus, I actually paid regular on it, because I felt like that, hey, if a coin is worth $2,000 or, whatever the case may be, you would pay that $35 grading fee for that 1963 Lincoln cent. All right. This is where I got into a lot of trouble, and I am not kidding you guys. My wife was completely okay with the submissions of these coins, and I would pop in $500-$700 at a time in bulk submissions. And this is where you need to kind of like keep it real with yourself. It's like, man, I'm going to be spending all this money, but is there a guarantee? All right, is there a guarantee that I'm going to get the value back of my coin? Or is it kind of like, you know what? It has to grade out as 67 or else I am royally just screwed over. And that's all self-inflicted. So you have to really kind of see where everything sits. Now, if there's kind of like a safety net, let's say, for example, that this coin right here, okay, you have paid $35 for a regular, service, and it could come back in probably 4 to 6 weeks. Send this off, okay, and for it to be worth it, it would have to grade out as 65 full split bands. All right, so you would have to already know in advance what the actual price valuation is of the coin at specific numerical grade levels. So if it's 65, this is a $75 coin. That's probably not too bad. You want to be at 66 because it'd be worth somewhere like that 125 level, but you also want to be at 67. All right. Can you afford this coin to be at a 64 full bands? Probably not. So you need to know what your threshold is on every coin and use that to your discretion. Of course, PCGS has a phenomenal service on their website where you can actually check out the actual price guide values of graded coins for each denomination, each series, and things like that. Use it. It is free. It's going to be the best tool that you'll ever use. And then you have some of the specialized stuff, reholder costs. Of course, it's cheap, $12 for a regular Gold Shield is $17. Guarantee resubmission. By the way, here's the Collectors Club. And they could do an auto renewal, so they'll automatically charge your card every 12 months. Silver is $69, gold $149, and platinum, of course, the big dog of it all, was $249. I actually, for a number of years, did the gold right in the middle. I wasn't like kind of like super hardcore into submissions. Although, you know, for a number of years, I was spending anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 annually in the submission costs. That's a lot of damn money too. So with that being said, you go ahead and list out all the coins, okay? And you have the quantity, like you have one, and then the coin number that will be assigned to you, and all that's done online. Date and mint mark, coin description, you know, it's a 1963 Lincoln cent. Choose some of the add-ons for strike. True View. True View is they take phenomenal photography of the coin using their array of various mirrors and lighting techniques to flood the coin with absolute just the perfect amount of light where you don't get any of the feedback. Okay, that's important. And for encapsulated coins only. So if you were sending off a coin for a crossover, you would put down the cert number, the grade, things like that, a reholder that would apply there. Minimum grade. So the minimum grade is what you would state on here. Let's say that 63 has to be a minimum of a mint state 67. If it hits a 67, they will holder it. If not, it'll come back in a little 2x2 plastic holder, you know, with a little label or whatever the case may be. And it's going to be in the invoice saying, well, this one had a technical grade of a mint state 65. Therefore, we didn't holder it per your request on this form. And then declared value. Okay, declared value is required. So let's say you sent that 63 Lincoln cent, you put a declared value of $2,000, and then your minimum grade is a mint state 67, you would do that. All right, so you go on down the line, you add up the declared value at the bottom, you add up the total number of coins here, and we get here to alternate return shipping. You could do a pickup. If you're local and you want to go to PCGS headquarters, that's for authorized dealers only. So it would help if you had a tax ID number, even if you didn't have a physical brick and mortar. Let's say you worked and operated strictly from home, like an eBay business, or maybe you just have a website, then you could do that. Signature required. If it's high dollar, absolutely you want a signature. And then you could choose like FedEx, Express Mail, delivery speed. You know, they could do the registered mail if you have a lot of high dollar items in there as well. And you have all the service levels here that are calculated. So you add in the number of coins, the fees, the totals, and then this is where you get the sticker shock right here. And then just go ahead and, you know, kind of do, what do you want to do? Payment, cash, credit card, LOC, check money order, credit card number. You put all that stuff there. They'll auto charge that when they send it out for the shipment. And then authorized signature. You sign that puppy and it's good to go. That's a lot of information. Again, this is the form where you have to really be diligent about making sure that they have like a single page of nothing but all the legalese stuff. Really add it all together, okay? Now here's where I got in a lot of trouble. So my wife is, God bless her, she's fantastic. So very supportive, but even the most supportive people, okay, that didn't mind you spending a little bit of money to see if you got some returns here, is that when you spend $5,000-$6,000 in submission costs, obviously the wifey is going to say something about it, okay? So, sure enough, we had a conversation, okay? And then the question is, are we making money off of this? I'm like, well, I don't think so. So a lot of the coins are not coming back to my expectation level. And then she pretty much, to a certain point, can only do it for so long where she's like, okay, we need to reevaluate this. If it doesn't work, we're going to put the kibosh on it. And then that's kind of how I disappeared around 2012 from doing these bulk kind of like dreamboat kind of submissions, you know, really trying to find out if if that 1967 Washington quarter is going to come back as a 67 plus. And I was certainly a dreamer, okay, and that's where I got myself into a lot of trouble, a lot of trouble. Now, where it's also similar is when you grade out old coins, okay, like this Hawaii right here. The big problem with these is you could submit the coins. You're like, oh yeah, undeniably it will grade a mint state 62, and you're going to be talking about a huge payday coin. But what if it comes back details cleaned? Okay, for a lot of people who are not that aren't exactly an old hand at identifying coins that are cleaned, you got to be 100% careful with sending out old coins, these classics. Okay, there's a lot of coins that come back cleaned. They're cleaned all the time, 24/7, and it will just kill the value that you have on those coins. Now, I have, out of all of the money that I've spent on submissions throughout the years, throughout the that 3-year block, I have kept one coin. All right, out of the, I would have to say it's close to $20,000 in submission fees that I've spent on coins. Here's the unfortunate part. This is where you need to figure out if this is for you. I have recouped only about 80%. I have sold just about every conceivable coin with except one. And it's what I like to call the reminder coin. You guys have seen it before, but I'm going to talk about it again. And it is this 1966 Washington quarter. All right. Take a look at it. The luster is stunning. Okay. It has very low problem. You see a lot of the die flow lines, which indicates that this coin was struck with worn dies. Okay. So it was getting to that point. I didn't think it would be that big of an issue. This coin right here, I was optimistically pegging at a 67. Okay, at the time that I submitted this coin, it would have been like a $1,200, $1,300 coin. Right now on a 67 for a 66, it's worth roughly $200-$300. So the prices have come down a lot because a lot of coins have been submitted and subsequently graded as a mint state 67. Now, this one right here is a 66, and that's it. Okay, this one came back, and I was very, very salty about it because it really did not have any scratches, nicks, planchet marks. This one just had a soft strike. Okay, and then that's where I got crushed. All right, this was, I think, part of one of the last submissions that I had sent out, and then that's all she wrote. And then that's all my wife wrote. She's like, that's it. We're done. There were a few coins where I did extremely well on that I made anywhere from $500 to $1,500 on. I had a number of those, and that was the primary reason why I was able to battle back some of the money and recoup a lot of the money that I had spent and invested in grading coins. Okay, so even for someone like me, and I'm not going to pretend like I am 100% knower in all of this, because it doesn't matter how strong you think your game is when it comes to grading raw coins before you submit them. It's the human element in it all. Okay, people do make mistakes. Sometimes you errantly send out a coin that you thought was going to be that 66, 67, or 68 grade, and it comes back to 65. And then it sucks. The feeling is just horrible. You got to keep in mind, when these coins are sent out to the graders, okay, there's always 3 to 4 other graders that look at the coins. Okay, they audit each other's work. All right, so when you have 3 or 4 expert graders that come in and they all agree, like, yep, that's a 66, all right, we're not doing anything else with this one, then that's on you, because there's a little bit of a gap in your grading acumen, I guess, your skills. All right, so we have the coin aspect of it put aside. I told you guys I would be talking about currency grading. All right, so PCGS currency is officially back in the game. Okay, they're not called PCGS currency today as we're used to knowing it based off of that one $5 FRN that you see back there, but it is now called PCGS banknote. All right, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a background story, PCGS currency was around for a while, but they were never really part of the PCGS Corporation Collectors Universe There was a lot of kind of like bitter, angry kind of stuff going on. Probably as recently as maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when the current president at the time, Jason Bradford, was going through some legal mess, I suppose, with PCGS in terms of trying to get full support for the PCGS currency name. So at the time, PCGS was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help support you in some way, but we're not going to support you to the level as we do the coin grading, sector of it. So PCGS currency is a legit, at the time, currency grading company. Jason's team was phenomenal. And, I've sent a number of notes out to them and came back, and it's like, yeah, it's everything I expected to. The one thing about grading currency that's a little bit different than coins is you feel like you're not having to fight for a certain grade. There are certain expectations you go for. But with currency, one thing that I found out is unless you're dealing with like super modern notes, when you get into stuff that looks kind of similar to this right here, you're kind of less, I guess, concerned about, the grade level it comes back. Now, what's really going to hurt is, let's say a piece of currency comes back with a details grade. I'll say like pinholes or stain or, mounting remnants or whatever the case may be. But aside from that, that's really the only downside with grading U.S. currency. Now, generally, I'll send out currency that's kind of on the old side. Like this star note right here. I didn't actually send this one to PMG, which, by the way, that's NGC, the same company. And CGS for comic books. They're all one and the same. This one right here I ended up buying on Heritage, I believe, or maybe it was, Heritage Auctions. And then this one here was another Heritage collection piece. A lot of the currency I had submitted a while back, like national banknotes and stuff, is holed up for safekeeping. It's not even accessible at this point, especially with all this rain. But anyways, where it's really turned around is the Jason Bradford, the president at the time, had left the company. He disbanded PCGS currency. I think he probably sold the rights back to PCGS. And he is gone. Jason Bradford's been in the business. He was part of PCGS currency, I would have to guess, for over a decade. And that's just a pure guess. I don't know if Jason's a listener, but maybe you could help clarify some things so that way everybody knows what's going on. However, I'm happy to say that Jason Bradford had formed his own currency grading company that I forgot the name of it, and I apologize. Actually, let me grab my iPad here and let's see what the name of that company is. But in any event, he launched his new currency grading company. Here, I think 6 months ago. And Jason is the president of that new company. And so it's called Legacy Currency Grading. And I would be willing to try him out. Because he's going to be another top grader, his company. So the cool thing is he's launching a new currency grading service that's going to help join in with PMG and PCGS banknote. And it's going to keep the market good and active. So that's going to be something I think I'm going to try out here pretty soon. And what I could do is give you guys an evaluation on legacy currency grading and see how it goes. But same thing goes, okay? PCGS banknote has their own submission form, okay? Same everything. Fill it out, only it's minus the color. I actually did this one black and white because I was running out of yellow ink. But you have the same kind of like options for a lot of the grading, something to keep in mind, and you just fill it out as such. So that pretty much, kind of wraps things up. I mean, really, let's assume I'm right. It'll save time. But really, would you guys even trust a guy that lives on the second floor of you know, his aunt's attic, you know, plays video games all day. I don't know, it's up to you guys. But it was great talking about grading. Again, it's a very subjective thing. Some people love it, some people hate it. Yes, it is the most frustrating damn thing that you will ever go through if you're in a hobby and you want to pursue grading. Because when you throw out people and their gambling habits, that's why these companies are so successful. That's why PCGS and NGC make millions upon millions of dollars every year, is they're kind of like playing off the gambling tendencies that human beings normally have within their body. It's like, you know what, I am going to go ahead and spend $35 at the opportunity of making $2,000. It's like, you know, it's like the easiest kind of like low-hanging fruit opportunity that you could possibly get yourself into where you can make some big money. But again, just like gambling, you can lose big. Keep that in mind. You can lose the farm. You bet the farm, you lose the farm, guess what? You're not going to be harvesting any corn and alfalfa sprouts ever again. So make sure you know your limitations when it comes to stuff like this. And that's it. Man, another long video, and I do apologize about all this information. Is it worthwhile to grade into the 2020? It probably is. You just need to be very picky and choosy about what you're going to send out. Only, you know, I would say send out the old stuff. You know, preserve, you know, your family's legacy if it's something that's been passed down to you. If you have an absorbent amount of like extra income and you wanted to try out moderns and all that stuff, you can do that. All right. And then there are people that buy coins already graded, like in old holders, like stuff like this. See this right here? These old Rattlers and first gen holders and all that. And usually back in the day, these coins were heavily undergraded. People would buy those, take them, crack them out, or maybe resubmit them for a reconsideration. And if they come back a grade or two higher, then that enhances the value of them. And there are people that do it every day. They scour the internet, you know, eBay. They go to all these other sites that sell coins already graded, and they do that. That's another opportunity. The good news is you're buying a coin that's already graded, so you know that at the very least there's a baseline that we're working with here. But Coinaholics, let me know what you think. This is a very deep video about grading. Is it worth it? Well, there's a lot of risk and reward, and you just have to, if you play it safe and you play it smart, then you can possibly make money. Don't make the same mistakes I did. You guys have a wonderful day, and as always, we are discovering together. I will see you on the next video. Take care.